The Biden administration was asleep at the wheel, focusing on promoting woke policies abroad while China consolidated power in our own backyard, he said. I'm thrilled to see Secretary Rubio and the Trump administration already course correcting, charting a new path for the U.S. and our neighbors in Latin America. He said Panama's decision to cancel its Belt and Road contract with China was a tremendous victory, not only for the United States, but also for the Panamanian people who are escaping China's debt trap diplomacy. You see, this is what you learn here, right? We're going to go deeper. It's not just it's not just the cost of the ships. It's that China was gaining a foothold in the hemisphere. A serious our ships use that canal. Our military uses that canal. And China's going to control the port at the beginning and at the end on either side. Well, we're using USAID to send money to promote transgender operas in various countries around the world. And this is the way he expressed it. Not only for the United States, it's not only a tremendous victory for the United States, but also for the people of Panama who are escaping China's debt trap diplomacy. You say, well, here's our Belt and Road, and we'll give you money, we'll help you with your infrastructure. But then what? Then you owe them. You owe China. Then China owes you. Follow the money. If you're in debt to China, well, then you're going to respond. So now that's broken. That spell, that curse is broken. Critics accuse, of course, there's always critics. Critics accuse Beijing of using the critics of China. Okay. Critics accuse Beijing of using the Belt and Road Initiative to lure developing countries into signing up for unsustainable loans for infrastructure projects. It's like predatory lending. When the nation faces financial challenges or the project does not generate the expected return, China can seize the assets or demand crippling payments in return. In other words, they would end up with the Panama Canal. It's crazy. The Belt and Road Initiative, a pet project of Chinese President Xi Jinping, has been billed as extending China's soft power and using its huge currency surpluses to advance its foreign policy goals. In the 10 years since the project began, some 150 countries have signed memorandums of understanding with China to explore participating in the Belt and Road Initiative, according to a study by the Wilson Center think tank last year. Isn't that crazy? But you see, China's on the move. They're thinking geopolitically. They're thinking strategy. They're right. 150 countries have signed memorandums. Countries throughout Africa, Asia, and Latin America. By the way, what's in those countries? Natural resources. The same resources we talked about, we've referenced in Greenland. So China makes a deal. We're going to lend you money for infrastructure in these various countries in Latin America, Asia, Africa. If it doesn't work out and they can't repay, well, then China, just like the bank takes your house if you can't pay it, China takes their assets. What's the asset? The asset could be land with these minerals that we need. Okay. Through countries throughout Africa, Asia, and Latin America soon began hosting Belt and Road Initiative projects, which quickly expanded beyond roads and bridges to include the financing of ports and harbors, high-speed data networks, and satellite television service. You know what comes to mind right now? The financing of ports, just by that expression. This is really what Ukraine's about. It's about Russia having a port, right? It's strategic for Russia, Ukraine, and you can never forget that. The geography of life is so real. Real estate is real. Okay, and that port in Ukraine, they want that port. That's what it's about. At the end of the day, they want that port. And Russia feels that they need that port. Just like China is trying to finance ports that these countries potentially can't pay for so that China can take possession of them. The rapid expansion has generated questions as many Belt and Road infrastructure projects did not meet their billing. The terms and conditions of BRI financing were often shielded from public view through strict non-disclosure agreements, which in turn set off alarm bells with institutions like the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, the Wilson Center said in its study. BRI, I'm going to keep reading because this is really important. We need to understand what China is doing. BRI linked defaults in countries such as Sri Lanka and Zambia led to political instability and violence because of the steep inflation, spiraling rates of poverty, and heavy taxes imposed to pay off foreign creditors, typically in China. Italy signed a Belt and Road Initiative with China in 2019. The only one of the group of 7 leading industrialized nations to participate in a project primarily focused on developing countries, Rome declined to renew its memorandum of understanding in 2023. Still, the U.S. will be pressed to match China's growing investment and trade portfolio with countries across Latin America. Many of these will look to Beijing if Mr. Trump makes accessing U.S. markets more difficult. China's state firms are major investors in the region's energy, infrastructure, and space industries, and the country has surpassed the United States as South America's largest trading partner. Diana Roy, a senior writer at the Council on Foreign Relations, wrote in a recent survey of China's growing influence in Central and South America. I'm going to finish this up. She noted that China in South America's top trading partner and the second largest in Latin America behind only the U.S. Quote, Beijing has also expanded its cultural, diplomatic, and military presence throughout the region, she said. Most recently, China celebrated the opening of a mega port in Peru, which Mr. Xi attended. All right. This is really great. I'm glad we found this. Honestly, I'm proud of this. I think when we keep doing this and we find these themes and you go back to the history of the Monroe Doctrine and you understand what Trump's trying to do, and we look from Greenland to China to Mexico and to the border and Homan and Panama and Colombia, and we see what China's up to, and you realize, whoa, thank God Trump's doing what he's doing, not just to stop it. Could you imagine if China just kept marching along this way and Harris was in office and just continued to march down the woke insanity path?